Hello and welcome back for episode 11 of the Yesteryear podcast. It's the 4th of July weekend and other than some chores, I have tried to do nothing of any consequence. I'm James, and as always, I'm joined by my wonderful co-host Beth. Happy 4th, Beth. How are you doing this weekend?
I'm just chilling, relaxing, sleeping.
Did you do anything special for the 4th? Did you just sleep?
No, I just slept.
Just slept. Maybe a little bit of work.
I didn't even have a good lie.
Me either. I was like some chores and chill, and that's about it.
Yeah, I cleaned up a little.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did some around the house stuff, which that needed to get done. That was good. That was a good thing. All right. Well, this week we have a real fun one. I decided that since we have brought it up so many times, that we should do Monster Squad. Monster Squad. Yes.
Yeah. I'm actually really excited to talk about this one.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Like many others, this is one of those movies that I rode my bike along with my gang of friends to Sunshine Mall to watch. You know, it's about 150 degrees outside when you're riding there, and then a storm comes through and makes it 150 with humidity. So
make your hair all boof.
Yeah, bouffon. I was really boof. Anytime there was a movie about an unlikely kid hero saving the day, it's like I was there, man. I was on it. So, a lot of people felt like this movie was some type of Goonies ripoff. But I say in no way. I mean, I say it holds its own, and it's its own movie. And honestly, other than centering on a group of young friends, I don't really see a link to the movies that makes them anything alike.
Well, I've never seen the Goonies, so I can't really feel with you there. After we watch that, though, that'd be a good point to bring back up. However, in the trailer, they do reference Ghostbusters, which I've also not seen completely, but this movie did give me some of those vibes. So I wouldn't necessarily say it holds its own. It kind of seemed like Walmart version.
The Monster Squad?
Yeah, it kind of seemed like it just seemed off-brand. I mean, it was a good movie, don't get me wrong. It just seemed like, it's like, let me copy your homework.
Now,
all right, we'll make it different.
Did you feel been there, done that with it? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Well, in a sense, I really liked the different monsters and such, and I thought that was really cool that they pulled in like main type of monsters. Frankenstein, not really the water thing. I've never seen that before. But Dracula, you know, the werewolf vamp, you know, it's kind of like classic stuff. So I liked that about it. It wasn't necessarily super above par everything else.
So you were excited to watch it.
Yes.
How did you feel about the trailer, the movie trailer?
So I gave the trailer score a 3 out of 5.
Okay.
So it did make the reference to Ghostbusters, which I was like, okay, that's kind of funny.
Right, because I think it says who you gonna call when you're Ghost, but who you gonna call when the monsters.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, understandable. Which made me question: is it any kind of the same director or anything like that? No. Okay. So then, yeah, whatever. I saw that they were kids, so I was like, all right, which was interesting because they weren't like high schoolers.
Right.
They were legitimate like middle schoolers.
12 years old.
12-year-old. So that was kind of cool. There were different types of monsters and supernatural beings showed in the trailers. So that was also neat. But it wasn't. They definitely showed it more as like a humor horror movie. It was definitely cheesy.
Comedy
so
horror.
it was good. It looked interesting enough.
Cool. All right. Monster Squad was released on August 14th in 1987, and it is a comedy horror film directed by Fred Decker. He also wrote and directed Night of the Creeps. Now, you remember you referenced the movie Slither?
Yes.
Last week, I think it was.
Yeah.
So Slither is kind of a knockoff of Night of the Creeps. It's the same thing. These little slug things get in your mouth and make you kind of like a zombie. It was a really disturbing movie. And it also ended, you know how, like I tell you, like the 1980s, like last week when the hand was still alive.
Yeah.
And there's always like, it never can just end in an 80s horror movie. There's always got to be, you know, I wonder if it's over. Pies come down out of space. You know,
right.
there's always a little bit. Night of the Creeps did the same exact thing at the very end. There was this poodle that comes up and looks up at them. They're like, oh, and it opens its mouth and a slug flies out of it. So
I really like that about those movies, though. Those always get me.
Yeah. It's always one more little, So he also co-wrote this movie with a guy named Shane Black, and they met when they attended UCLA. Just as a little bit of information. The movie takes place in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and revolves around a group of savvy kids that take on the universal monsters led by Count Dracula, who is trying to take over the world. So once again, this is a movie that did not do fantastic at the box office. However, it has developed a cult following, and in my opinion, stands the test of time, and is a great movie. So that's me. I love this movie. Even to make it a cult movie, it was like that for me before. So, once again, this is another movie that didn't really have any huge names, so I'm not really going to go into it. However, I do feel that it was a well-casted movie, and that the people who acted in it did do a great job.
Yeah, so I agree. I did like the acting in this. However, with movies, I want to be able to remember a character's name.
Yeah.
And that was incredibly difficult in this.
Absolutely.
Like, incredibly difficult.
Absolutely.
I remember Rudy's name because they said it so many times.
Yeah.
So his name is great.
And Fat Kid.
And the Fat Kid. Everybody else, I have no idea.
I'm going to tell you, I literally reference a lot of the people as this kid, that kid for a good amount of it because of that reason. Because they didn't really necessarily stick as in, oh, this is so many. There were also, it was a lot of information, it did come fast, which I do like a lot of times. You know, you hear, I'm not going to be a complainer of that.
I mean, this movie was only an hour and 22 minutes long.
Yeah, very short.
Very short.
Very quick, and as soon as it was starting, it was ending.
Pretty much.
There were talks of this movie falling victim to the remake monster. However, that was scrapped, and that last check, it's not happening. So thank goodness for that, in my opinion.
To remake it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it would be.
I just don't think some things need to be remade.
The thing about that is, I don't necessarily think of that like. I don't think it could be done because it's so cheesy. Like it's. And I don't want to use the word bad, but it's so bad that it's good type deal. Like when dogs are really ugly that they're so cute, you know?
Right.
I feel like this is kind of like that.
Right.
So I don't think you can make the plot again and make it better in a sense. It's just where it's at. In my opinion.
I understand what you're saying. I mean, I totally get what you're saying. I don't think that it's something that needs...
I don't think in nowadays and age they could make it where it would need to be begin.
I don't think they need to remake it.
I don't think they need to. No.
I mean... And that's the same thing with like Fright Night. That when they remade Fright Night, did you need to remake Fright Night? You couldn't think of an original other movie that you had to do. You had to remake Fright Night, and they didn't necessarily redo Lost Boys. I think they did kind of like a sequel more of it, but
that's even worse.
It was just unnecessary. Yeah. It just wasn't needed, and you know, it's like you kind of not to get off on a rant, but like. Matrix by itself was a standalone movie, the original Matrix. And then it was so good, everybody's like, and they made so much money, they're like, oh yeah, we're cashing in on this. So they made a Matrix Part 2 and a Part 3, and they never touched Part 1, in my opinion. They were never anywhere near as good. And now there's a Part 4 coming out.
You know, that's funny. I was going to say, you know, I've never seen that movie.
Okay.
However... It's one of those movies that everyone just knows. Like, I know the basic of what The Matrix is about.
Right.
And so it's so good that you just know what it is.
Matrix was really cool because when it came out, I had recently got back from deployment and everything like that. And I had no clue what this movie was about. So we were like, hey, why don't we go watch a movie? And we're like, oh, okay, Keanu Reeves. And it starts close to the time that it is now. Why don't we go watch that? Completely blew my mind, man. I had no clue. When he woke up in the goo, not that you know what I'm talking about, I was like, what? I was like, what?
Spoiler alert, we watched that movie.
Spoiler alert, he wakes up in the goo. You don't know what I'm talking about?
Know. Well, when he wakes up in the goo, I'll know.
And then you'll be like, oh, my dad ruined this.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think we've ever talked about it in the show, but you and I have had a conversation before where we talked about how Hollywood will do that to movies where they'll remake them because they're out of ideas.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's really sad because in nowadays and age, where I'm at, from my viewpoint, there aren't a lot of movies that are coming out that are like above like good tier for me. Like there's some movies that I absolutely love that came out relatively recently, but they aren't original ideas, most of them. Right. You know, and that sucks.
And I don't mind if they take like, we've crapped on it in the past, but like take Twilight for instance. You take a book and a book series and you make it into a movie, and as long as you stay true to the story and you stay true, that's not a bad idea. I don't mind that because that's an original, even though it's not an original. I mean, Harry Potter, all original story, that somebody created, and they were able to take this huge world and create a whole thing. To now, there's in Universal Studios, there's theme parks that are
right.
That I can appreciate. Has wizards and witches and all that kind of stuff been done before? Yes, but like they even talked about, I think it was like redoing that eventually, redoing Harry Potter, or maybe even making it into a TV series. And is that necessary? Do you want that to happen?
I don't. No.
I don't think that true fans do. I mean, I don't mind how now they've taken and made like the world of Harry Potter. So like, what is that? Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them?
Yeah.
Like,
but that's a separate story.
I haven't seen them. Right. Yeah. It's taking the world. That's cool. It's taking the world of Harry Potter and expounding upon that. And that's okay. I don't think that's the same as this. But if somebody was like, yeah, we're going to take and we're going to remake Harry Potter now, and we're going to, make it in this 2020, I don't want to see that. No. I don't think it's anything that anybody wants to see. I think that they're, and so when you take movies like this, I mean, even there's another Bill and Ted movie coming out, Face the Music, I think is what it's called. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure was in the 90s. I think it was 90. Might have been 89, but I think it was 90. And it was just very of the day, makes sense for that. You don't want to remake that movie. And, now they're making a sequel and the guys look all old and it's like, is this really necessary?
And I never really enjoy movies that are like that. They do that a couple times with like action movies. I think they're doing one now. I don't know.
Jumanji.
Where they take the character and it's like years in the future and they're all old now, but they have to go back and do one last job. I hate those movies. Those are never good to me.
Yeah.
Those are never fun. I just don't ever enjoy them. Because it's always old humor. And not in a sense of like, I'm your dad. No, I set that up. Where it's like, I'm hungry. Hi, hungry. I'm dad. Stuff like that. Yeah, that's what I mean by old humor. What I mean in those movies is they'll be like, oh, I'm gonna bust a hip. That's not funny.
I get what you're saying.
I don't want to see that.
If you'd ever watch the Lethal Weapon series, but one of the running jokes in that I'm getting too old for this crap is what the guy says, and then by the time Lethal Weapon 4 comes on, the one guy that was like a young, Mel Gibson, very young and awesome, he's all, oh, I'm getting too old for this stuff. I mean, they're old men running around, and I get what you're saying. Like, and that makes that.
I don't want to see it.
It changes your characters.
Yeah.
And makes them not.
That's why, especially if they were to do, let's take Monster Squad as an example.
Yeah.
Let's take it and, the monsters are coming back 100 years later. And, because I actually thought about this when it was ending.
Yeah.
Because in it, how it happens every certain
20 years,
30
years,
30,
like
yeah,
that.
Whatever, where he comes back. So it made me kind of think about that, where the monsters, would come back the 100 years later. If they had the characters and they grew up, they had kids, and they passed all the information on to their kids, and the kids were now the new Monster Squad. If they could make a movie about that, but I wouldn't want to watch that.
Do you know that's what's happening with Ghostbusters?
Really?
Yep, there's a Ghostbusters movie coming out, and apparently it's their kids. It's like Egon's kids or something like that. They find Ecto-1 or it's his grandfather.
I'm not interested in seeing that, because it always sounds like it's going to be a cool idea.
Right.
But the execution's always poor. And it's not, because they always try to make the kids seem like the parents.
Yep. And they're trying to play on your nostalgia. They're trying to play on that feeling that you had for the first one and get you to spend that money. But in the end, I don't know that it's really what you wanted it to be. I think that it kind of rips off.
And that's how they did. Remember when they did the Ghostbusters, but it was the women. I was in middle school when that came out, and I want to say that it was more obviously I want to go for the people who have watched Ghostbusters when it came out, but I want to say it was more targeted around the younger generation as well. And oh my gosh, all my friends, because all my friends were guys at the time, so they had gone to see it because they were more into Ghostbusters and stuff like that, what mine was. And they had gone to see it, and I remember one of them came back the next day, and they were mad, beyond mad. They're like, do not waste your time with that.
Right.
Because it was not good.
Right.
And people, and then, it was on it was everywhere. People gave that movie horrible
Horrible
ratings.
review. It did
It did
horrible.
really bad.
Yep.
So I didn't even bother to touch it.
Right.
I mean,
and that's for the people that would even give it a chance, because like someone like me, I had no interest in it. You're taking a story that I love. You're taking something that I hold dear to my heart, and you're saying, well, we're going to make it all women now. We're going to do this, which is all fine and good. I don't care
had it been done
if you do that.
Yeah.
But
if it had been done correctly and the execution would have been better.
Right. You're basically, you're just trying to get that almighty dollar.
Yeah.
So, all right. We are way off topic.
Yeah. I mean, too,
but
I
it's
guess
good
to a
information.
degree, yeah.
So we can start with the story now, unless you have anything else.
That's it. I feel like this. I want us to get this out there. A lot of my notes are kind of comparison notes to the other movies,
and that's fine.
And I want to put that out there because that's why I said not really off topic, because I feel like that's what this review is going to be this time around. It's going to be a lot of comparing.
I can relate to that. I mean, they took even the story, and to go onto a rant again. Even the story is taking the Universal Studio versions of these monsters and re-imaging them for this story, like Dracula, the Wolfman, the Mummy. All of these were in their own right movies and horror films and horror characters, and now they've been made into this movie. So it's a retelling in it of itself. But I get what you're saying. Comparison wise, no problem. Yeah. Whatever you got, I love your notes.
Jumping into it, starting the movie, the intro, I like right out the bat was like Star Wars. Because coming down, scrolling. Except there was no music, but it was kind of funny. They messed up. So, I mean, that's kind of how it was to me. I mean, just a whole movie, I was just thinking of other movies that I've seen, comparing it to. And like you said, this movie's good, and it holds relatively its own ground.
Yeah.
It just seemed like if it was pulling its inspiration from a bunch of different things.
Okay. I mean, yeah. I mean, basically, let's take it for what it is. Two college dudes get together and they write a movie, and one of them had written and directed a movie already. So these guys are like, hey, well, let's take off that genre and let's make it, the same thing, horror comedy.
Right.
Let's cash in on this 80s time. And that's basically what they did. So, all right, we open with a scrolling text that basically tells a tale of about 100 years ago how Van Helsing attempted to rid the world of evil, but blew it.
Yeah.
We then open on a cemetery after that, and what looks to be Dracula's castle, I'm assuming?
So I like this because instead of the layout of the town, it's showing you a layout of like different scenes, spooky things, where it's like a cemetery, a castle, coffins, and then there's like spiders coming out, and there's bats and everything. So you're already in that kind of like, oh, spooky. So that was nice.
Yeah, we see the coffins.
I did like that. And then, but it also kind of draws you in, and without having to say it, that it's past.
I got you.
Once you see the castle, it's pretty much like,
it's like, okay, hey, here's where you're at.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we're back in the 1600s.
I got you.
So,
well, 100 years ago.
So what is it?
We see a giant bat monster thing, which was pretty creepy, and it turns into Dracula.
Yeah.
A band of men are coming to storm the castle and blow up the gate, killing a bride of Dracula who is feasting on what looks to be an possum. That's what I'm assuming that
my
thing
favorite
was.
snack. I don't know about you.
They locate an amulet and have a girl run to recite words from a scroll, and the dead start to rise and attack while she reads it in German. A portal opens and sucks the girl in along with everything else.
She just wasn't having a good time.
No, she was very unlucky the whole time. And she's and then sucked in. Unfortunately, I do not believe that Dracula was sucked in it as well.
No, and you know what? I wondered what had to go in the hole in order for it to stop, or if there was a time limit, maybe.
I don't know. I think that it was supposed to. I think that they just opened it too fast. I think they were supposed to, get there, have them like the end of the movie where you have the Dracula and the bad animal or the bad monsters there to get sucked in to the portal.
That portal
went
was open
right
for
to
a
it.
long time, and
yeah.
So I don't know.
It was
an interesting thing to think on.
It was mega quick.
Yeah, to see, because that's why that what led me to believe was like, oh, do they need a certain amount of monsters before it's like, nah, I'm all full. I'm not taking any more in the limbo today.
Limbo
See you in
is
100
full.
years.
Sorry, kids, we're full here. Move along.
And you know what? The amulet disappeared at the end. It didn't disappear at this point.
Okay. I didn't know that. I thought it just cut scene. It just like it was everything was getting sucked up and he was sucked up and then it just cut scene.
Well, even if it does that at the end, you don't see anything fall from where the hole was. It's not the amulet. It's not like the amulet fell. It's just gone. So
yeah. We are then in present day, which 1980s and 80s present day,
but it says present day.
Yeah.
Which shows you're at a school.
And two boys are getting disciplined by a man for their behavior. They're telling of why they draw during science class and how they have a monster club at the time.
Which was funny because it made me think of what we did 2 episodes back where they were yelling at him for drawing the unicorn.
Yeah, a never-ending story.
Yeah.
I like this also because there's quick banter going back and forth, and their names are Sean and Patrick, the characters.
Yeah.
Yes. And Patrick is talking about why they draw it in like the cat head.
Yeah, that was so funny.
They turn it. So it was. I was laughing at that. When they're leaving, they run right into Miss Carlson, who is the science teacher. They call her Meow Mix because she has the head of a cat.
He said it loud too. Like it's not even like quiet, which kind of made me think of you. These kids are jerks.
Yeah, which was why I love this because I'm like, haha, Meow Mix. They call her Meow Mix.
They were talking to the I guess the principal. Or the dean of students.
Either
but
way.
I'll say whatever. And he goes, science is real, monsters are not. And that always makes me think of the quote. So, I want to say I was in a science class too, and they were like, well, just because you can't see your brain doesn't mean it's not there.
Right.
And I think about that quote a lot.
Right. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there.
Yeah.
You can't see air.
But yeah, I kind of like this back and forth scene though, because I've been in situations where I've been called to the office and I show up and it's like 2 of my friends and they're looking at me like wide eye and like and I'm like, oh no, what did I get dragged into? And this kind of talk goes on, like it's always the same kind of banter where it's like, you see, you're not supposed to do this, why do you do it? And we're all like, well,
right,
here's the thing,
right, you have a really good reason for calling it. She's got a cat head, so we call her Meow Mix.
I want to say, so I don't know who was who, but Patrick
Sean's the main one, and then Patrick,
but I don't remember who was on what.
Okay,
the guy on the left
is Sean.
Okay, so Sean in that scene, he was blaming everything on Patrick,
right?
Which was me. I was Sean, because I would be like, oh, well, I didn't see anything, but I'll tell you who created the everything. Right. So that's kind of how I was.
I like how he was Patrick was reasoning it out. Like no, like we have to draw the pictures because they're cat-headed people in this world and they need to be pointed out.
Yeah,
you know? That's so. Yeah. So he has a good and they're very matter of fact, which I dug. And they're like, well, they're real to us, monsters. You know, he's like, well, they're not real. They're like, well, they're real to us. So I liked how it set their persona or the personality, if you want to say, right from the jump. Yeah, you get what these kids are about. They're 12-year-old kids,
good, yeah.
And
they had good characters. Like they're, I don't mean characters like people. I mean like their actual character, the people themselves. Yeah. Because it made me think of middle school. Like,
yeah, sure.
That just like that's how kids acted.
Yeah.
And then even when they were going and they were showing the other kids, like they looked like all the kids. Like when the fat kid was getting beat up. They look like the boys I went to school with. They just do.
Yeah.
They just look like the kids I go to school with. And it was really, I was upset. I was like, man, things don't change.
These people film me?
Right.
Are
you saying I'm packing?
No, baby. No. No. I'm saying film my life.
No. You know what? But, I mean, there's always a designated fat kid.
Yeah.
Always in these movies. And I would be the kid.
Well, that's who we cut to next. We cut to Horace, or Fat Kid, getting picked on by a couple of kids.
Horace.
Right. Thanks a lot. I mean, it's 19...
I mean, thanks, Mom.
When this movie came out, then that means it was late 70s. That's still too late when he was born, I'm saying. Yeah. To be naming somebody Horace. You're a jerk parent.
What are you getting out of that?
I mean...
Oh, Horace.
I mean, do I want to go by Horace or Fat Kid? Because, I mean...
Fat Kid.
Fat Kid's a little bit better than Horace.
Yeah.
And even his friends call him Fat Kid, which is pretty rough. They start to beat him up, but Rudy interrupts and makes one of the bullies eat the candy bar that Fat Kid dropped.
So the funny thing is that he wasn't necessarily beating him up, like punching him. He was slapping him around. And that was like even worse. That's like
It was just
that was
it
like
was
at least hit
disrespectful.
me. Yeah. Gosh.
Right.
But to compare things, like I was talking about, Rudy to me seemed like a character that was a mix between JD from Heathers and Bender from Breakfast Club.
Okay.
That's who that gave me vibes.
Right,
of.
the tough guy, junior high kid is what he was.
In all black, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and JD from Heathers, how dare you? You're not supposed to have seen that yet. We're going to review that movie.
I love that movie.
Oh my gosh.
That's one of my.
I guess we can't review it now. If you've
we could
seen
do that one. We've done movies that I've seen before already.
That movie is awesome.
That movie's so good. It'd be good to watch it again. I haven't seen that since middle school.
You knew his name.
Oh, of course.
No, JD.
That's one of my childhood crushes.
Fat Kid is probably definitely also
Christian Slater.
I know what you were saying.
I know him by actor name too. That's how much he impacted me.
Fat Kid, and then you've got, what's his name from Goonies?
I don't know. I haven't seen that movie.
So, oh my,
the
Chunk.
other fat kid,
Chunk.
Chunky.
His name's Chunk.
That's horrible.
Is what they call him. So you've got mean. Chunk, and now you've got Fat Kid, and that's why people were completely like, shifty eye. What? They're literally just calling a Wish brand.
Yeah,
Chunk,
again,
Fat Kid,
let me copy your homework. Okay, just change it around a bit.
Right.
Type deal.
Yeah.
So that's always how it is. I mean, like, even in It, like we were talking about, Ben, they made fun of him too. But he's a fat kid surrounded by a bunch of skinny kids.
Right. Right.
I mean.
Right. Yeah. Right, but that played, I'm not getting into that story, but that played into that, why he overcame all that and everything like that, and ran his mile and threw up.
Okay, but still a fat kid surrounded by a bunch of skinny kids.
Okay.
That's just, gotta have that character in there.
So we then find that two characters from the beginning, Patrick and Sean, are walking, arguing about Wolfman, and then come across the scary German guy who they say spies on them.
I like this little interaction between them because all these little, like, every scene was flowed together for me because there were always little banter between them. But he was like, "Oh, I know what you are, but what am I?" And I was like, "Oh, childhood." Right.
I love it. And he's just got stupid names to him.
Yeah.
Fat Kid comes up and asks if they can have Rudy join the Monster Club at that point in time, or the club that they get. I don't know. They're not quite calling it Monster Squad yet because they make a big deal when they name it Monster Squad. We then cut to a couple pilots not enjoying their job at all. They're complaining about carting dead bodies.
Yeah.
They hear a noise. The one pilot goes back, got to check out the noise.
The guy's like, "Oh, I'll just stay here and make spooky noises."
It makes spooky noises. Jerk.
But this was so weird to me because he goes into the back of the plane and there's a rat on one of the boxes.
Right.
Why would you have a rat on board?
I don't know.
I mean, somebody did not search these boxes well enough.
At all.
No. And it's all red. Like, I'm not one who knows a lot about planes.
Well, that's how that would be there. That is not unnormal. Yeah, that's not normal.
That's still weird.
Because the light, you want it lit, but not enough light to where it's going to mess with the pilot's eyes. So it's like that, so that it's still dark lighting. So yeah, that's right.
Well, I would not have gone to check it out. I would have been making spooky noises.
Nice. Yeah, he kind of gets attacked by a bat, and it turns out to be Dracula who punches him. And then we find he finds a box that says Frankenstein. I think
I didn't read that at first. I thought it was one of the boxes that just said like fragile, so I wasn't really reading the labels. That's how all the boxes were, in movies like this.
Sure,
fragile. Yeah, fragile.
The pilot pulls the lever, causing the floor to drop out underneath Dracula, who kind of floats for a second and is like, whoa, and then goes down after the box that fell out because it like drops that too.
Yeah, I get he's Dracula and all, but the plane's going relatively fast, and wind power is really strong. That bat would have been like,
we're not going to compare that.
And then as long as he like floated there, like the box would have been gone.
Yeah.
And the box landing.
All right, you're getting too real for Monster Squad.
I just thinking about some of these things.
So we then cut back to the squad giving Rudy a monster test, but he's more interested in spying on the girl out the window.
Man, I just want to say this treehouse was super cool.
It was super cool.
I always wanted a treehouse when I was younger, and instead we got a crappy swing set that had these like really small, I guess you could call it like a house on it, next to like a slide and the swing set. Mm-hmm. And at first when we got it, we were like, whoa, cool, those? And then we saw the little house, and we were like, oh, this is what we're getting instead of a tree house. And every time we went in there were always spiders.
We didn't have a
never
tree.
went in there. We did have a tree.
Well, not for a house.
We had one tree that was massive. It was next to the shed. You could have done one.
You could have just hung out in the shed.
We never... There were spiders in there. We never went in there into that little house next to the thing because there were spiders in there.
Yeah.
And so we never went in. And I know you can make the argument, well, if you went into the treehouse, there would be spiders. However, if we had a treehouse, it would be cooler, and we would make it so there were no spiders. There wouldn't be. We would use our mind powers.
Well, I'm sorry that your childhood was so bad. And you only had a sweet swing set and not...
No, that was garbage. I think...
Blasphemy.
The one thing we were on it for like two times, and then
played on
it
that
broke
thing all the time.
The swing part of it.
Who broke it, Beth?
You calling me fat again? Listen, pal. Maybe I broke it, but maybe I blamed it on my sister. So, not my problem. But
anyway,
I have a lot of good memories on that. But we were on the trampoline a lot more.
Yes, you were.
Because there were always bugs on that thing. It was all small, and we outgrew it really fast.
Yeah, you did. We got that for free from the next door neighbor. We tore down the fence to get it over there, so it wasn't like it was a big deal.
That's right.
Anyway, Sean's little sister Phoebe wants to join the club, but they won't let her. Poor little Phoebe.
She was really cute.
Sean and Phoebe's mom call for dinner, and it turns out that Sean's mom bought him a book that Van Helsing wrote. However, it's in German.
That was so funny because, this is great. This is German.
Yep, he completely stifles it because he's like, oh man, it's in German.
Yeah.
And he's all... Meanwhile, Dracula is starting his return and saying, let it begin, with a huge storm behind him. So I guess he's getting it all ramped up for his monsters and everything. Sean wants to go see a movie, something about... Is it Weasels? Or something, part 12. It's some horror movie knockoff.
Which it kind of relates to what we were talking about with people remaking movies all the time.
Yes.
Just being gross. But his dad even comments, he's like, because he goes and asks his dad if he can go see it, and the dad's like, oh, he always comes back. They could put him in a blender and he would still come back from the grave.
He's like, that was part 7.
Yeah, that's why it's funny to me. I have a soft spot for movies like that, though. You know, like awful,
Chucky.
like absolutely terrible. Yeah, Chucky or Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Yeah, where Freddy just somehow
the first one's
comes
great,
back.
and then the rest are just.
The first one's not that good.
You don't like the first one?
Not in comparison to the others.
Really? I think it's the other way.
Let me retract what I'm saying. One was its own horror movie of its little how he did. Like, he didn't even really talk all that much. Like, he's not even in the movie a whole bunch. He kills Tina without even showing up.
That's why he's so scary.
And the ending to me, all right, if you don't believe in him and you turn your back on him, okay, he goes away and everything like that. And there was some really good scenes. I think that's the one where the stairs are like soup when she's trying to run away and everything like that. So let me recant what I said. It was a great movie. I like the ones past that because of how finding out the creative way in which he's going to kill the characters. Let me say that.
That's fair.
He like with part 3, you've got the kid who wants to be a wizard kid. You've got the kid who's, I'm really strong in my dreams and I'm this, that, and the other, and everything like that. So that's what I mean by, and it turned from being a horror movie into being kind of a goofy horror movie.
We should review that one.
So we will. I want to try and stay away from sequel movies.
Well, I don't want to do necessarily sequels of that movie, just like the first one or one. What's the one where she's the mom? I want to say, and she gets pulled into the bed.
So that one is New Nightmare, and that's where at the end she crawls down through the. I think that's called Wes Craven's New Nightmare. And at the end, she has to crawl through down the sheets, and she keeps crawling in the bed, and then
I would want to watch that one again. It's been a long time since I've seen that.
Yeah, that one was cool because she actually gets pulled into almost into the movie because the guy who played her dad, the cop, shows up and is calling. I think he actually calls her Nancy, and refers to her like that, and then it's all like the script as he's writing it. And Wes Craven is even in it. It was a pretty interesting take on the movie. I'll give you that. I don't know if it's review worthy, but it was a good movie.
Well,
They're all. I'll say this. I enjoy all of them. Even the remake was okay, even though they really went far on the story. But it was an alright movie. So Sean, like I said, wants to go see the movie, but he's not allowed to because he has to stay home and babysit because his parents are going for marriage counseling, which doesn't turn out to happen either.
No.
Sean has a crappy heart-to-heart with his dad, but it's cut short by a phone call coming in from the precinct. So we find out that his dad is cop. And I don't know I think his dad's name is Gary, maybe?
I don't know.
Couldn't tell you. I just call him Sean's dad the entire time because that's how I know him.
Well, I call Sean, kid who has a dad for a cop, so.
Okay.
Cop son.
So while he's on the phone, there's a guy in the background screaming about being a werewolf. We then cut back to the scene, and the guy is trying to get locked up because of the full moon, and then he gets shot up instead because he's like, "Lock me up!" And they're like, because he pulls one of the cops' guns and everything like that. We join Sean's dad, who is obviously a cop now. We know this. He's on scene for the mummy having been stolen from the museum.
Yeah, this was funny.
And it's great because he's like, the dad says, a 2,000-year-old dead guy is not just going to get up and walk off. And then we see the mummy walking away. And I like that. We also see the man that was shot up return from the dead and transform into the werewolf.
Yeah. Which these scenes are always kind of similar to me. I mean, before werewolves are like romanticized in a sense to like nowadays where they're always like, "Oh, I'm a werewolf, baby." Ooh. The transformation part was always necessarily the same, where it was always like the nails are getting longer and the teeth.
Looks painful.
Yeah, it looks very painful. Nowadays they just go into the werewolf form.
Morph into the morph.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. So all that's kind of done. The dad comes home. He joins Sean on the roof watching a drive-in movie. Bringing them like a cheeseburger or something like that.
Which I liked.
Yeah. We then see the werewolf walking in the swamps, and he finds the mummy and Dracula.
Yes.
Dracula has a staff that allows him to control the werewolf, which I thought was cool that he had that and it had the wolf on, because the werewolf was kind of like, and then he was like, and he's like, oh, okay, I guess.
So you can tell who's obviously the leader here.
Right. Yeah.
I want to comment.
Yeah.
I know we brought this movie up last episode by talking about the fish. After watching this movie, the fish is like doesn't have any part at all, really.
He just brings the box out of the water.
Yeah.
And he doesn't do a whole bunch.
I'm kind of upset about that.
He was kind of a throw-in, but neither did the mummy, to tell you the truth.
Well, the mummy still had a scene where he was fighting the kids.
Yeah. Maybe they were going to do more with him and they just didn't have the budget for it.
I guess.
Fair.
That's fair.
Dracula then points to a lake and the box begins to rise, lifting by the creature from the Black Lagoon. Or as they call him, Gillman, but he's the creature from the Black Lagoon.
I just remembered. So last episode, I talked about... Sorry, you just sparked my memory.
Yeah.
So I remembered what that's from. Where I remember because I thought it was a Blink-182 song.
Oh, yeah.
Movie. Malcolm in the Middle.
Yeah, it's at the beginning.
It's in the beginning.
Yes, it is.
Yep, it's on the TV.
Yep.
I'm glad he's holding the girl above him.
Yes, he is.
Cool beans. I'm glad I remembered that. That feels good. Ooh, sorry about that.
No, we had a breakthrough there. Good job. You need to lay down, eat some cereal.
Cheese.
Cheese. Sorry, cheese. Okay.
I meant to say cheese and crackers, but all I could get out was cheese, and now I feel bad for myself.
Just cheese on cheese.
Just cheese. Get a platter
in
of
the
cheese.
Can. Oh.
Ew! Never in the can, you freak. You like in the can. Stop listening.
If you like cheese in the can, write us at the yes to your podcast at gmail.com.
We'll block your number.
Then we'll block you.
Psychopaths.
So Dracula opens the box to reveal Frankenstein's monster. Now, I'm going to call him Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monsters at times because everybody knows him as Frankenstein, not Frankenstein's monster. But that's what he technically is. It's because Dr.
I've always known him as Frankenstein.
Right, but he's not. He's Frankenstein's monster.
Well, I'm not going to stop calling him that.
Right. Well, he uses electrodes to bring him back to life powered by lightning, which was pretty cool.
Which I liked.
Yep.
Because it's funny because if you think about it, this is this is Frankenstein. So he must have been passed around going to a museum or something where they're going to put him up.
Yeah.
I mean, what are the off chances someone would have done this? Would have been like, well, let's shock him, see what happens.
I don't know. I probably would have.
Because you're going to think, oh, it's just like wax or fake or just whatever. No. I hate wax museums. But I mean, that was just kind of funny to me.
Yeah, so all the monsters are back together now.
Yeah.
reunited. What are your thoughts so far on it?
So we're about halfway through the movie. Yeah, I'd say
for half, but
we're pretty much over where the plot is.
Yeah.
This is pretty much just
right. All the monsters are there now, and we're not quite half, but we're
I guess you wouldn't say we're at the conflict yet. No, but relatively almost half. Everything's been presented to us.
Gotcha.
So, jeez, what I think so far?
Yeah.
Really cool movie. I can't find where it is. You made me scroll up and look because I was trying to see what's halfway. Oh gosh.
All right. Well, I don't want to put
Give
you on
me
the
a
spot.
second. I had
You got good notes?
Yeah, it was good. I just can't.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so basically, at this point, you have the cop's son, Sean, who has his book written by this guy who
Van Helsing.
Yes, who's as we know is important. So we can already assume that the book he has is the book that girl had. So we already know that that's going to come into play later. So I'm thinking, okay, this is important. And then you have all the monsters presented. So everything's laid out on the table before us. And at this point, everything's going pretty smoothly, like flowing relatively well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Phoebe is being tucked into bed by her mom. And I kind of like that because she's like, are you going to yell at him? And the mom's kind of like,
yeah,
I love your father. And she's all, bro, I was talking about Sean. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Don't damage my child's psyche.
That was really funny.
But then we get to cut to the parents fighting. Sean kind of sees that going on. And then he has a message on the phone board.
I was not sure what was going on in the scene.
So he has a message from a weird sounding name guy interested in the book that he has. So Sean does a little anagramming, I guess you'd say, and finds, isn't that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why, as a kid in middle school, I definitely would not have thought about that.
I wouldn't have either.
Let me look at this weird name. Huh. These look suspicious.
Right. But it spells out Dracula.
It's Dracula backwards.
Why you would have... Yeah, I don't know why... I guess Dracula's going to be, hey, this is Dracula, and I'm interested in the book. And I also like that Dracula knew how to use a phone.
He also knew a lot of things.
Look,
which was
he called the... it's a very convenient setup that he knew how to call and leave a message and also everything. And yeah. Maybe he had the Wolfman do it.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe. But also, the Wolfman only seemed to know who he was in wolf form.
Yes.
When he was in the other form, he just seemed to be a regular guy who was trying to help them.
Yeah, and he was, but that's what he said. I said, look, I'm a werewolf. I found this out, and it's bad news, and you need to stop me from being a werewolf. And he's like, nah.
I wonder if that poor guy was just living his life, and then suddenly was like, whoop, werewolf time.
Right. That's what it seemed
Or maybe it's like a generation, and they're just like, at any point this could happen. Just prepare for it. And they're like, oh, you're crazy, old man. And then the kid just turns into one.
I don't know, but it definitely does seem like that. He's like, all of a sudden he's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a werewolf and help me out.
He really got the short end of the stick.
Yeah, he did. The werewolf did really. So what's great then is we cut to a little boy waking his dad saying there's monsters in his room. And I think this is Eugene. The dad pretends to empty the room from the monsters and doesn't see the real mummy in the closet. He's like, whoa, look at the giant monster. And he's like, you better stop or else you're not going to be reading those books no more.
Yeah, I think this dad handled it pretty well. Because he opens the door, he's like, whoa, look at all these you better hit the road, get out of here.
Clear out of here, monsters.
Which I liked. I think that's pretty okay.
I liked it, except for the fact that he didn't really look in the closet.
Yeah.
The mummy was in there like,
yeah.
Yeah. The mummy then goes out the window, but the poor kid's traumatized. So
yeah.
Sean is saying that they are now called the Monster Squad. That's the next scene that we go to. So again, I guess earlier they were just the club. Because there are real monsters that are in town now. So, and Sean is really upset and serious, saying they're the only ones that can stop the monsters. And this is where, as a kid, they're playing on that whole effect of there's no adults that are going to believe you. We're the only ones that can deal with this. And, the kid's going to have to save the day. And everybody kind of like even the dog does the does the hand in.
Which I was like, eh.
What?
I don't like hand moments. When the gang gets together, like, all right, everybody, put a hand in. Because whenever we did that as kids, like at school when I was with my friends, we're like, okay, we can do this. Put your hands in.
Yeah.
We didn't like touching each other. It was pretty much like one and done, immediately over.
Well, then you're not real friends.
No,
were you a squad?
We were all.
Yeah.
Okay, so squad in my childhood meant something different. Because squad was, a bunch of people would, but it was like, they were using it in songs, like really bad songs. Everyone was like, oh, what up my squad? No, it's not cool anymore.
Okay.
But we would do the hand thing, and it was just immediately over. Like, it still got the same energy. So it was like, yeah, go team. But it was done. In movies, they always hold it, and it's always just the hand in. Like, get off me, you sweaty. Like, I know I'm the sweaty one.
Yeah.
That's how people are to me. They're like, why are your hands so wet? I can't control it. You saying something makes me sweat more. I'm gonna cry. Right. They are. I'm wet. My hands are gross. See that ointment that makes them dry.
Nice. Talcum powder? No.
No.
All right. So they have that book that may help them, but it's written in German, so they're not sure how to read it. We do cuts to a scene of an old house on the bayou where Dracula has Frankenstein's monster locked up. Yeah, I'm saying the bayou because they're in Louisiana.
That's fair.
Dracula tells Frankenstein's monster that he wants him to collect the diary from the kids and bring it to him.
Why'd you put I like he was like, oh, you guys are my friends. Dracula like said that to him, and then Frankenstein's in a jail.
Yeah, put him in jail. Yeah.
Why? That's not how I'm treating
because he has a tendency to wander off. Well, Sean and crew decide to go see the scary German guy to decipher the book. While they do that, Phoebe is alone playing and actually comes across Frankenstein. I guess they know where they're at. So
yeah,
Sean and Squad are sitting eating pie with scary German guy.
Sean and Squad.
Who is it? Just
Fat Kid and Patrick.
Excuse me. I wanted to say Squad. So scary German guy is able to read the book and tells them what it says.
Scary German guy who didn't turn out to be scary.
No, he's a nice
wholesome
guy.
Old
he's
man.
Just German guy.
Like
they still call him Scary German's guy the entire time.
However, I liked this scene. Seems to be a key thing that's happening in the recent movies we've seen, where they go and they have to talk to some old guy or somebody else who fills them in, which I don't necessarily like. I don't really like when somebody else has to fill him in on something. Well, this was different because he's reading the book. He's translating it to them. However, this guy also seemed to know a lot about what's going on. If I'm some old dude on my last hip, I'm not going to be running around with a bunch of kids fighting monsters.
But he's nice.
Doesn't matter. If you are by yourself in your home and you let these kids in, these extremely young kids, and you have pie to lure them in, I'm gonna think you're creepy. But also, then are you really gonna waste your last 2 days that you have running around with them?
Well,
no. So in that sense, whatever.
Well, he tells them that the book tells of how good and evil are in constant flux, and every 100 years, the battle for power resumes. He tells as long as the amulet is not controlled by evil, that good will win. And he explains that if a procedure is performed, then a vortex will open and suck them in. And it pretty much has to happen at kind of like what happened at the beginning of the movie. And also, it's like the next day, I think is what it is.
Yeah.
At midnight. So that was convenient.
Classic, yeah.
As he's leaving, we also find that he has a tattoo on his arm from being in a concentration camp.
I know a bit about monsters myself.
I thought that was a nice little throw-in. And as a kid, it actually made me... I didn't really understand that. And I asked my dad, and my dad said, oh, and he explained the whole concentration camp thing and all of that to me. And, made me investigate more about it to understand what was going on. And I thought that was, a cool little throw-in that I know about monsters.
Yeah, that part of history is the only time I ever paid attention in history class. Because that part has always fascinated me of how that happens, because it's so unbelievably crazy that happened like that, to how that it just, and
that for so long people were just kind of looking the other way.
Yeah. So that part of history always fascinates me. So I did like that, and it made me feel better about the old man in a sense, because it was like, oh, he's not just some crazy German man. It just gave him more character.
Sure.
It layered
Gave him
it.
depth.
And I always talk about that. I love layers in movies.
Sure.
So I like that.
Yep.
Then Sean and Squad
Sean and Squad.
go home.
Yeah, well, they now know that they need a virgin to perform the ceremony, and they're also trying to gather weapons to fight evil. They're caught up in a conversation when Phoebe reveals Frankenstein's monster to them.
Who's apparently friends with her.
Yeah, they all
Suddenly.
run and hide, but she shows that he's nice.
Yeah.
Sean greets him first, and then they take him up in the clubhouse. They befriend him and seem to be cool with him, so I guess retrieving the book is off the table.
This was sad because Rudy hands him a mask. That's the Frankenstein mask?
Yeah.
And he's all like, oh, scary. And I was like, oh, he's self-conscious.
He is.
I was sad. I was like, okay, I feel bad.
Showing that, looks aren't everything.
Yeah. And then after this, a classic montage plays. You get the
Absolutely.
Rockin' music going on. You're showing all these kids doing all these stuff.
Yep.
Except that it's not all these kids. It's Rudy. Like, poor Rudy's back from carrying everybody else during this because he's doing the most. Like, literally doing the most.
Nice. You're right. Dracula is searching for the amulet in the house that he has taken over, and he finds it buried in the wall, surrounded by crosses and other things to keep him away from it. Don't understand how it got there.
I guess that's what that was for. See, but he still somehow gets in there because he's got the thing tied to the bomb.
No, that's so he can blow a hole in the wall. He gets it because Sean brings it out with him. So he's probably just going to send Wolfman in.
Okay.
I mean, let's be honest. I mean, that's probably exactly what was going to happen. And then we get the sweet 80s montage of the kids getting ready to battle. As they know that that night, they have to perform the ceremony, and it has to be performed to battle evil. So they make steaks in shop class.
No, Rudy makes steaks in shop class.
Eugene does write a letter to the army,
which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah.
I really like that because they always make us do that in middle school. Or
Yeah.
I want to say like 5th grade and then middle school. Every year we're writing them people letters, and I never get a letter back, okay? My letters are the most.
This kid sounds like a loser. I don't want to write them back.
This kid sounds like the fat kid.
This is damn fat kid's always writing me letters. I don't want nothing
handwriting. I have terrible handwriting.
Dear child, you have a
teacher
fat
just throws
child's
my letter
hand.
away.
Yeah, they don't even
It's in
send
the
it.
trash.
They just throw, like sending it to Santa Claus, who's real. And nice. And instead of it going, they're like, yeah, we're going to send this off. And it just trash.
The letter's all stank and sweaty. Look at my hands.
The custodian's reading your letter like, licking his finger with chocolate on it.
They
Gross.
had chicken biscuit for lunch.
They can smell the chicken on the envelope.
Cheetos again. Shut up, janitor.
Stop. He sees you in the hallway.
We're friends.
Ha 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 ha. He's like, he knows who you are because your lock on your locker also has the Cheeto dust on it.
Man, the amount of times I had actually contacted janitor because my locker would get stuck. Always my locker.
You again.
All the kids would be passing like, that sucks.
Yeah.
Fat kids, sweaty hands, got the lockers sweat. I don't want to talk about this anymore. Let's go back to the movie.
So Rudy is also melting down silver to make silver bullets. And he also steals a nice bow and arrow set. I thought it was quite interesting that he's allowed to make bullets in school.
Well, it wasn't like he was sneaking around a little bit. He was melting it down.
There's still a kit to make bullets in school. I thought that's
was why he gave me JD vibes.
Yeah, yeah, I feel that on that. So later that night, Dracula has drugged the Wolfman and waits for him to change while he feasts on 3 women.
Which makes me think that the human Wolfman is not the same as Wolfman.
Right.
So.
Wolfman does show that he didn't take the pills, and he starts to escape out of the ropes. He calls Sean's dad and warns of where Dracula is and that he is going to kill Sean, but then he fully transforms and runs off.
Yeah.
So he obviously has no control over himself when he is. It's kind of like Jekyll and Hyde, I guess you'd say. Patrick,
I don't know who that is.
They were in Waxwork.
Oh.
Well, they were. They were one of the scenes.
Was it the one with the Tony?
No.
Okay, then I don't know.
Patrick and Rudy are trying to find out if Patrick's sister is a virgin so they can perform the ritual. She kind of says she is. Kind of. Rudy blackmails her to go along with it with a photo of her so she helps.
Well, before this, they're like looking at her through the bushes, talking to some football guy.
Yeah.
And what's funny about this is he's on the. I guess
Steve.
he's on the phone with them or the radio.
He's on the radio.
Radio,
Like,
and he's all like,
ahead.
What's the holdup? He's like, Rudy's in love, and he's like, well, good for Rudy.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, their banter back and forth over that is
it's really fun,
okay,
yeah,
butt munch and stuff like that. Like very late 80s. Just I do love.
I really like
between Patrick and Sean.
Yes, because it made me think of my friends in middle school, and that's how we talk to each other. It was just funny, like
stupid
this.
Quit whip. Boop. You know, just okay, fine. You know, no, you're not taking anything personal. You're just a jerk.
We're just jerks.
Yep.
Classic kids.
So Sean and the rest of the crew are camping out, watching the house that Dracula is in, and they decide to go into it, which I thought was weird, but okay. And Dracula hears Frankenstein's footsteps. This distracts Dracula from the dynamite that he has set, and that's what causes it to go off and the house collapse.
See, I thought the dynamite was tied on a string to inside the room. Because I thought he was trying to blow up the amulet, and that was the point of it.
No, the dynamite was in the hole so that he could get the wall gone, and it was to a thing to set off the dynamite, a plunger thing.
Wow.
And the plunger thing just sinks and... So... Poor old Frankie, or however you want to say it, Frankenstein's monster gets crushed out, and they cannot free him.
Yeah, and he's not responding either. So everyone, you were just...
They're like, well, he died doing, helping us, and that's good enough. The Wolfman shows up, and Fat Kid kicks him in the nards to get away.
Which was in the trailer, so that was funny to see again.
Nards, which is
like,
awesome.
Does he? I don't know. Try it.
Yep. They also run into the 3 now vampire women, and then Dracula himself. They pull a secret lever on a statue, and they drop down a hole. Which
wasn't the same for when Dracula did it, because he went up on the statue, which
that's opened a different way. Yeah. Yep, I thought that was pretty cool.
You know what? And I actually, when we were younger, Justin had a play set, really, something, but it was small, like really incredibly small, and you put these 2 characters in this thing, and it was like a railroad mine thing in the cart, and it went through the house and it was spooky and everything. And I used to steal that from him all the time, because we would take it and we'd be like, ooh, go, go, go. And then I lost one of the characters. I'm going to say the dog ate it, to be honest. Yeah. And man, he was so mad.
None of this really happened.
He got,
this is
yes, it did.
A made up story.
I'll make it sound like I have dementia. Do I? Yes, Tabby and I messed with that thing too. I mean, we were crazy with that.
I think I remember what you're talking about.
But that kind of made me think of stuff like this, because there were different things that you could pull where other things would come out.
Yeah.
It was just really cool.
That's cool.
Because at that time, our dolls were Polly Pocket still, so we would put our Polly Pockets in it. It was all rubber.
Polly Pocket? You didn't have Polly
Yes, we did.
Okay, fine. You had
because we got them from the McDonald's meals.
Okay.
And they came in little houses, and they were rubbery, and we chewed on them.
Okay.
Chomp chomp. They were tasty.
We have a real quick cut scene to Rudy Patrick and his sister at like one of those drive-in restaurants, waiting for Sean to meet with them. And they're kind of like, where are you? As Sean, Horace, and Eugene are in the basement and find the amulet, and they take it since they can get, past all the crucifix and garlic and all that kind of stuff. Personally, I think it would have been better to just leave it, I guess. But what are you going to do? Dracula attacks, and Horace presses garlic pizza against his face so they can escape.
Which I really like that, because of course Fat Kid has pizza in his pocket.
Right, I love that he had that in his pocket.
But he was like, should I? Will it work? And then it did. He was like, yes, it did. Because they were talking about when they were giving Rudy the test. They were talking about the different ways you can kill vampires and stuff like that. So it was kind of like, oh, this is real.
A little throwback. Yeah. They all meet up right outside of the house with scary German guy who shows up with Phoebe as well. I thought that was kind of
in a car that's like
convenient.
Super old car.
Just the fact that, I mean, what the heck is Phoebe doing out running around at 10 o'clock at night going to scary German guy's house? I get that that Patrick and Rudy and the sister are out and everything like that, and she's kind of tagging along because she's got blackmailed, but Phoebe and the old guy kind of
well, he's nice old guy, right? Nice old guy, so whatever, it doesn't even matter. But they all decide that
it's 4th of July and we have 4 fireworks going off and we have
could
dogs.
cut that out though.
It's all right. No, it's okay. Everybody knows that we have our dogs when we're doing this, so it's fine.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Yeah. So they realize that everything is true now, and they decide to go to the church in the town square. The mummy attacks and grabs onto the Jeep they are in, which I thought was really, it was like just standing there and it was like,
yeah, I said this last episode. I hate mummies. I do, because I hate when they get unraveled like that. I don't like it. So when I saw what was happening, I was like, oh.
Nice.
Eyes closed.
So Rudy attaches some of his bandages to an arrow and shoots it into a tree, unraveling him completely, which I just thought was just a horrible way for him to go.
Again, Rudy being the savior of the day.
Right. Well, that's why they invited him into the group, because they needed somebody like that.
He was really cool.
Meanwhile, Sean's dad is racing to investigate the call from the Wolfman and drives right through Dracula's hearse, which I thought was really interesting. Dracula then blows up the clubhouse, and then he blows up the police officer in the cop car, which I thought was really wrong. Why did that happen?
And that never really gets mentioned again. That poor guy's just dead.
Yeah.
Like, Rudy's dad's not even, like literally, they never even talk about him again.
Yeah, and I think
he was really funny.
I think that was the first time, like I said, I think that the dad's name is Gary, and that's because I only know it because the guy was yelling it, like, hey, Gary, and then like, So Sean's dad shoots Dracula, who is unaffected, and then flies off.
It's a bad that was sadder about the treehouse getting blown up than I was for the cop.
That's pretty bad.
Because I was like, that man's just dead, but then he was just dead. I forgot that he actually died.
Nice. Yeah, we'll rip him.
Yeah, R.I.P.
I don't even know your name, and that's really sad. I could look it up, but I'm not going to.
Officer something.
Officer Guy.
Officer Guy.
The dad radios to Sean, who tells him they are on their way to town square. While there, the three brides of Dracula are coming down the street, and Rudy takes them out.
All three of them
once
by
again,
himself.
Thank you, Rudy. Really good that they called Rudy. He's kind of like the sloth.
He really is doing everything. Yeah.
Meanwhile, the sister is doing a horrible job of reading from the book to perform the ceremony.
Oh, absolutely terrible.
Dracula shows up in bat form and is shot out of the sky by Sean's dad, which, kudos to him for the shot.
Yeah.
Just, and he shoots him in the air.
I guess bat form is different from Dracula form because
he's still going to be affected, I guess.
Injured, but he got shot at the house and didn't bother him.
Didn't do anything to him.
I guess bat form is
when it's convenient, he's going to get shot up.
Yeah.
Wolfman shows up and pretty much kicks Sean's dad's butt. And then Sean shows up and he's like, "Hey," and he's like, "You looked," and he like hits him with a bat.
That was funny.
They push the Wolfman out the window, but not before putting the piece of dynamite in his pants, and he blows up.
Blown up, horrible.
But then he does come back together again.
They scan. They look over at Dracula.
Right.
He's laying there in the corner. He's a half human, half bat.
Yeah.
And I got flashbacks of when
in Fright
Night when he was laying out on the floor. I was like, oh, I don't want to look at it. Was just disgusting.
Yeah, he was all big and meaty and like
big and meaty. Big and meaty.
They put a lot of effort into that little thing, and I like that. At that point, Dracula has also escaped out of the room, so I guess he's transformed over to whatever he was doing. So the sister finishes the ceremony, but nothing happens. Turns out she's not a virgin. Because it was one time with Steve, but it doesn't count.
Doesn't count. That was really funny. Yeah.
So they then turn to Phoebe to read from the book with the scary German guy's help. The cops are fighting the Wolfman, but not having a lot of success at it at all.
No.
Rudy takes one of the guns of the cops being attacked by the werewolf, who's been put back together again. I already said that. And shoots him with a silver bullet. So once again
thank you, Rudy.
Thank you, Rudy. The creature from the Black Lagoon attacks,
comes out of the sewers.
And he messes up all kinds of cops.
Yeah.
But Horace, or Fat Kid, shoots him in the chest with a shotgun and takes him out. Boom.
Yeah.
Done. And I like it because the kids come out, the bully kids, he's like, "Hey, good job, Fat Kid." He's like, "My name is Horace."
Yeah.
It's so 80s, and I'm like, nice. Fat Kid's got it. Everybody in the, we all cheered at that point in time.
Like,
in the
woo,
theater.
Fat Kid.
Yeah, Fat Kid, you're awesome.
We're all fat kids at heart.
I'm a fat kid in real life. So now Dracula is pissed. And he's coming to take the amulet and book from Phoebe. He's basically takes out the rest of the police squad walking towards her. He's just like walking. They're coming up to try and stop him. And hey, buddy, you stop right there. And they're just, he's just like jacking them up.
Killing people. Like all these people have families and everything. Like it was devastating. A lot of people died.
Yes, like the entire police squad.
Like,
I mean, who was already even left because half of them have already been taken out by the fish guy and by the werewolf, and now, it's But he fires some type of light out of his hand and knocks the old man down, which I thought was weird.
Yeah, it was very strange.
They didn't want to kill him, but they had to take him out.
He threw flashbacks at him.
Yeah.
Oh. And you know that picture of the dogs? That helicopters in the background of him.
Yeah.
He's yeah.
Oh no.
Oh, poor old man.
Oh.
That's not funny.
Dracula then picks up Phoebe and says, "Give me the amulet, you bitch."
Yeah.
And when he does, Frankenstein's monster shows up and Dracula puts it on him, man. Knocks him onto a metal pike, which I thought was
We were all happy
good.
that Frankenstein came back.
Yeah, because, it's like, yeah, you're not
gone. You're not dead.
Dead again.
Yeah.
Scary German guy comes back to Phoebe and helps her complete the ceremony to open the portal to Limbo. Dracula grabs Sean and attempts to drag him into Limbo, but Sean stabs him with a stake.
Sean.
Yes.
Which Sean doesn't get sucked into the portal after being that close.
Which was convenient that everybody was able to be standing like they were, but it's all perspective.
Yeah.
Van Helsing then reaches down and grabs Dracula and spins into Limbo while Dracula screams, "No!" Yes, that was Van Helsing.
I was like, who is this old man?
From the beginning of the movie.
Okay.
Yep. We then have Frankenstein's monster who's trying to get back to Phoebe, who's hiding behind a bench.
It was really sad.
It was sad. It was a sad scene. He gets sucked up into Limbo 2 slowly, while Phoebe, is sad that he's going. Throws scraps.
Yeah.
Her stuffed dog. After all the monsters are gone or dead, the portal closes. So everyone's celebrating having defeated evil. And then a tank rolls down the street.
Yeah, which was so...
And an army general walks up looking for Eugene, who explains that Mummy came in his house.
Yeah, a mummy came in my house.
So the guy's like, who can explain to me what's going on? And so Sean comes forward and hands him a card. Says, well, I can tell you what happened, sir. He says, we're the Monster Squad.
And they don't talk. They don't start talking to him. They just start clapping hands.
Yep.
Like, yeah, we're super cool. Wow. Yeah.
The movie ends with the rolling credits.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much how it ends. It goes out on the Monster Squad theme song. Which Monster Squad, which I loved. I was. It was such a quick movie, and I was sad when it ended, and I was still sad again when I was watching it.
Everyone was sad because Frankenstein.
Yeah, you're like
sad.
Well, yeah, because you're like, but he couldn't stay. Clearly, he had to go.
He would have had to gone,
but it was sad.
Not to be stuck in limbo though.
No, limbo's right.
It would be better if it
put him back in the box.
No, well, if he just died again, not died in a sense, but he was zapped to life.
Just went dormant.
Just dormant, yeah.
Well, what's your overall thoughts and feelings on the film and the experience?
So this movie, like I said, it was kind of it gave me off-brand Ghostbuster vibes.
Okay.
It was like if Ghostbusters were kids kind of deal to me. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. The plot could have been a little bit better, but it's okay for what it was.
Gotcha.
So,
would you recommend it to a friend?
I would recommend it to a friend.
Nice.
Yes.
We use our Moose ratings. How many Moose would you give it?
3.5 out of 5.
3.5. I go with the 4. Mm-hmm. I pretty much live standard at 4 out of 5. Would you have your favorites?
So my favorite character was Rudy, obviously.
Rudy? I thought it would have been Patrick.
No.
Because of the funny...
Well, yeah, those kids were funny, but they weren't much.
I got you, but he's not Rudy.
He's not Rudy. Well, you see Rudy at the end when he had his arm on the girl's shoulder?
Yes.
And she was all like, come on.
Yeah.
It was really funny.
This is the whole time. He's like, well, we all kind of want to know.
Yeah. Who's your favorite character?
Sean.
Sean?
Because he's the leader of the pack. He's the kid that's really trying to keep it going. And then my second would be Patrick because I love that again, that matter of fact, you're dead in trouble. You guys got it straight, but hear me out. we have a good reason for why we do this because, people need to know about cat-headed people in the world. And that, to me, just really makes me laugh. So.
Who's your least favorite?
Least favorite would be the dad.
Really? I like the dad.
I'm not a fan of the dad. I mean, it's not a huge cast, so, I mean, I have to have a least favorite somebody. I guess it would have to, I mean, I would say the dad just because, I don't know, man. I guess he's a good dad. I retract that back. I don't say the dad.
Do you want to know my least favorite character?
Yeah, who's your least character?
Dracula. I didn't like him at all.
Just because?
He wasn't good. He wasn't a good Dracula.
Oh.
He was kind of lame.
You just think he was just lame-o?
He was just lame, yeah.
Wow.
He wasn't even scary. Like, I was more afraid of the swamp thing.
The creature from the back. Yeah. See, so I would say my least favorite is the mummy.
The mummy?
Because he did a lot of walking around, and he kind of was going after them on the Jeep, but for the most part...
Wasn't really anything.
Didn't really have a really good attack and everything.
That's fair.
That. So then that's what I'll say. I'll say the mummy. Yeah. Because you're right. The dad, even though they did kind of have a crappy heart-to-heart, I mean, in comparison to, like, Sebastian's dad...
Oh, God.
Worst
dad award.
I mean, the guy, he shows back up after being out, and, he still was thoughtful enough to stop and get him some cheeseburgers and, know that he was still going to want to watch the movie and stuff like that. And I give it to him. He's trying to work his marriage out. He's trying to do something. And like he told the wife, you knew what the package was when you married it. It's,
right.
This is who I am. Take it or leave it, So, I give it to him. So, favorite scenes?
It's always hard for some movies to pull out favorite scenes. Well, I was waiting for you to finish, but it was coming next. I guess my favorite scene would be, honestly, any of the scenes where the kids are back and forthing, because it just made me think of my friends in middle school, and I always crap on my middle school experience, but it really was not that bad. After looking back on it, but I mean, this just made me think of how my friends were at that point.
Yeah,
and I miss those times. I mean, it was really fun. We were because high school now, when you enter it, it's built on trying to make you the best you can for your future, and not worrying about, well, we want to put you with your friends type deal. I mean, we're not all taking the same classes anymore, so you see your friends a lot less. So you just make friends with other people and move on. So I don't really see my friends from middle school that often anymore. And, like, we had, history this year together, and I have a lot of really good history moments, but, like, in general, I didn't see them my sophomore year, so it just made me think about middle school more, and I enjoyed that about this movie. So any of those scenes really just touched for me. So
it gave you, even though it wasn't, you didn't see it when it first came out in the 80s, it gave you a nostalgia feeling. It gave you the nostalgia feeling. That's nice. I like that. Very cool. Yeah, mine is definitely, of course, the beginning. But any scenes that are between Patrick and Sean having any kind of banter are definitely my favorites. When he runs into the cat head Miss,
that was funny,
and he's like meowing at her and everything like that. That definitely does it for me as a favorite.
Yeah.
Least favorite?
Ooh, least favorite? Probably any of the scenes with Dracula. They weren't really interesting. They were kind of carrying the movie along, I suppose, but they weren't good enough that I wanted to keep watching those scenes particularly.
I thought it was, I would say that with the three women in the closet, I thought it was kind of funny that he was able to get, at this day and age, and that day and age, 1980s, three younger looking women in white dresses together and get them in that. I mean, I was kind of like, what's going on? And I would have preferred him to like backhand the old man instead of some white beam shoot out of his hand.
True. That's true. That's why he wasn't really my favorite. He didn't have depth to him. Dracula was just like, oh, vampire, and that's it.
Yeah.
So
I always thought he lacked the bit of consistency, which often happens with horror genre type movies, where you have like the bad guy is able to just kill, but when it comes to fighting the main character, all of a sudden they're not as strong, or they aren't as quick, or there's some, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like Dracula's able to sit there and fight his way to the amulet
and he
through
just
six different. He could have just snapped her neck and gone on.
And he was lifting her up by her jaw too. Like that would have hurt. Like that would have crushed her jaw.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, that kind of stuff like that. When Sean and them were in, when he was right there and he had him when he came out with the amulet at first. I mean, snap, done, movie's over. Especially since he's the main one that you're trying to kill because he's the one who's you're saying can stop you.
Right.
So those kind of things like that always kind of,
Well, like you were saying, like when I was talking about the scene where they were when he was in the helicopter, or not the helicopter, the plane. Like it's a movie.
Right. It's a movie.
You just have to always remember that it's just a movie.
Yep.
So while you can't have perfect consistency, it also goes into how the movie's better that way too. You know, sometimes it's just cheesier and better that way.
Yep, and that's what I love about it. That is a nice cheesy '80s movie, and you're not trying to get too caught up. If you're somebody who's going to watch this movie and you're like, well, actually, okay, it's Dracula.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's start there. It's Dracula and a fishman.
And a fishman, right.
And a mummy that's walking around that has no guts. When he's unraveling and all his like innards are falling out and stuff like that.
That's why I always hate mummies, because they're always just dust.
Yeah.
I just hate that shit.
That was so horrible. But I mean that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So if you're gonna try and read too much into that, then you're the jerk, not the movie.
No.
All right. What else you got?
You want to start with trivia?
Yeah, we can do some trivia. So to start off trivia with a big name, I'm going to say Liam Neeson was paid for a bit part for this movie, and it was never shot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they never shot it. He did get paid for it, but it was never shot.
That sucks. Good for him, though.
Right. Interesting. I wonder what it would have been. I mean, at that point in time, he wasn't really anybody. He wasn't Liam Neeson as he is today.
Maybe he would have been another monster that they just cut out.
Maybe.
But what monster?
I don't know. Man, bear, pig.
Man, bear, pig. Oh my gosh. Maybe a ghost?
A goat.
A goat. Okay.
When Dracula lifts Phoebe up and she screams, it was a real reaction, as she had never seen the character with full makeup on. He had never worn his fangs or had the red eyes like he did at that point. So when she saw him, that was the first time she was seeing him like that. So her reaction is genuine.
I think to compare, they did that to the kids on when they made the new It movie. They did that to them, where all the reaction when they first saw him as a clown. He was acting so real, like it actually terrified them. There's
been a couple times in the original The Fly. The guy walks around with a bag on his head the whole time, and then eventually the woman, his wife, rips it off and sees the fly head, but she had never seen it before. That was the first time she had seen it, and it was so horrible and scary to her. Her reaction was genuine. She flipped out.
Yeah.
And they
which I mean, I guess makes for a better movie, but still, like
the director's ha.
Yeah. I just because the guy who played Pennywise, he was scary looking. Like he genuinely, the way he acted too. I mean, I would have been scared if I had to see that up close like that. Like,
sure.
I mean, that gives you more real acting.
Because he's creepy but kitty at the same time,
which makes it even worse. Yeah.
Like he trying to be too innocent but also murderous at the same time.
Which I guess was the point of Pennywise, anyways, trying to appeal to the kids. So.
In the initial script, it had a huge opening scene when Van Helsing attacks Dracula's castle. He was accompanied by Zeppelins and hundreds of men on horseback.
Led Zeppelins?
Not Led Zeppelins, just Zeppelins, the old school attack things. However, it was cut down due to budget. It would have cost more to film that than the final cost of the entire film.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah. A sad one, actor Brent Shalom, who played Horace or Fat Kid, tragically died of pneumonia in 1997.
Really?
Yep.
That sucks.
Yeah, because I wanted to see what he looked like today, and then it was like, oh,
yeah, because
so
a lot of the time when the fat kid grows up, they are really attractive, and it always makes people like second guess. Like Longbottom from Harry Potter.
Yeah.
How he looks now.
Yeah, I gotcha. Mary Ellen Trainor, who played the mother of the lead siblings, Sean's mom, also played the mother of the lead siblings in The Goonies.
Oh.
Yep. She's in a couple of this director's movies. I think he liked her a lot because she was also in Die Hard. She was also in a couple other ones. But yeah, I thought that was really, when I was like, there's no ties between this movie and Goonies, and then it's got the same mom. I'm all blink, blink, blink. You know? There might be some ties between this and Goonies. And a fun one. the noise that comes from the rats in the opening scene is actually from guinea pigs. And the rats in the same scene are actually armadillos. And I saw that when I
Really?
watched it today. Yes.
For armadillos.
I was like, why are there armadillos in Dracula's tomb?
Oh,
And
wow.
sure as anything, they're armadillos. You didn't see that?
No.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I don't think I really even saw rats. I saw the spiders that came out when you opened it.
Running along the floor, and you hear, wee, 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 and I'm like, okay, those are definitely guinea pigs. And then I'm like,
oh, I did not pay enough attention.
those are armadillos. What the heck are their armadillos doing? Yep, I guess they were supposed to be rats, but they're not. So
that's such a crap supplement.
I agree, because I don't quite understand.
What's the closest thing we can get to a
right? We don't have any
armadillo?
big rats.
It doesn't even have hair.
No,
they're
that's
just
what
shells.
I'm saying.
I
have to
not
watch
see
it.
the
Yeah, they're completely armadillos. Completely armadillos.
Well,
so what else you have?
I was just gonna say that I always look for if there's a which character are you, and there was not one for this movie.
Okay.
But I wonder if it's because it's just a small movie and it didn't do so well. So movies like this, I guess, wouldn't have things like that. But who do you think you would get? I'm sure I would have gotten either Sean or Patrick.
That's who I would hope that I would get. I would probably get. Thanks.
Hey, listen, pal.
I was
don't act like you haven't been railing me on.
I was gonna say scary German guy.
Oh,
is probably who I would get. But yes, if it's based on something like that, I would probably get Fat Kid or Horace. Yes, thanks. Horace.
That's such a horrible name.
Somebody, I mean,
you call me Harry.
They really did him in. He should have been. My name is James. Just to throw a name out there, something like that. But Horace.
No, I just.
I mean, if your name is Horace, please email us at the Yes to Your podcast at gmail.com.
Tell us if you want to be alive.
Tell us if you go by a different name, such as Fat Kid. Tell us if you want to be alive. Good gravy.
But yeah, that's all for me.
It's been a rough one, man. Again, apologize for the dogs barking. Obviously, it being 4th of July weekend, there are people that are still setting off fireworks in and around the neighborhood, and
yeah, we can only hope that's going to end this weekend too. Usually throughout this month and the next, like the previous 2 and the next 2, that's going to be happening.
We actually waited to record because of that, and then we thought that it was finally done, and turns out they had one more up their sleeve. So the dogs are just dogs. They're just doing their job, trying to protect us, and we're not going to edit it out, and we're not going to yell at the dogs who are doing it. So anyway, anything else, Miss Beth?
That's all for me.
All right, we're going to wrap this one up tonight. I'd like to thank everyone for stopping by and listening to our 11th episode. We do deeply, deeply appreciate it, more than you could imagine. We even deeply appreciate it. And of course, best way you can say that you love us is to give us those 5-star reviews on iTunes. Helps us move up the charts. Helps us get found. I actually was looking at some of our stuff on Chartable, and we have moved up. There was one, I took a picture of it. I didn't show it to you. We were like 2,000 and something last month. We were like 200.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in like the USA-based one. It was phenomenal. I was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
So that means that, that we're getting out there. It means people are listening, and, we appreciate that stuff, man. I mean, you couldn't imagine. We do this stuff for fun. But, we do it to put it out there, and the fact that people listen and that they respond is really amazing. It's amazing that people want to sit there and listen to us talk every week, especially Beth.
Yeah.
You can always email us at the yes to your podcast at gmail.com. Our Twitter is twitter.com/yes to your PCast. Instagram is instagram.com/yes to your podcast. Facebook is facebook.com yes to your podcast. Our Facebook group is the Truffle Shufflers. Our secret question is, what are the host name, which is James and Beth. Our website is yestoyourpodcast.buzzsprout.com. We do have a Patreon if you'd like to go that way with it, which is patreon.com/the Nostalgia Group. If you need to know how to spell that like I did, I welcome you to look that up, because nostalgia is not spelled the way that I thought it would be. Again, we made that to make it fun, the Nostalgia Group for the Patreon, versus just making it Yes to Your Podcast. I wanted to have something a little bit different. Of course, a shout out to Greg Revan, who has done all of our music for our episodes. And just once again, a real big thank you to everybody for continuing to listen and stopping by. We couldn't ask for more than what you guys are doing. And with that, I will say anything to you, Beth. You have anything more?
No, that's all for me.
All right. As always, we love you, and we'd like to say goodnight. Say goodnight, Beth.
Good night.